Hello and welcome back. Now in this video we want to set up our logger. Okay, so once we set up the logger, then all we need to do is to export it from the file, and then in each of our services we import it. Okay, so the first thing, let me create a file. I'll call this logger.ts. okay, now let's go to the browser so we see the logger we want to use. Remember I said our logs will be sent to Elasticsearch and we will display it using Kibana. Okay, there are different loggers. Okay, and those loggers they support different transports. Okay, so the one we want to use is called Winston. So you can search for Winston right here. Okay, this is the one I want to use, Winston. You can see it has different log types. If you want to send to CloudWatch, Winston CloudWatch, but the one I'm interested in is this particular one. Okay, so you can see it's a very popular library. So it's designed to be a simple and universal logging library, and it supports multiple transports. Okay, so transport is just basically where the logs are sent to. Okay, so let's see examples of transports. If they are defined right here, if they have any example of transports. Okay, not defined here. Okay, let's just see. So to use this, once we install, we create a logger, and you can specify your log level, you can format, you can specify the default metadata you want to use, and then you can specify your transport here. So if you want to write to a file, you can write the logs to a file. If you want to send to if you want to display in the console, you can set the transport.console. Okay, let's see if they defined the different transports that can be used. Okay, they are not defined, but we can define our own transport. Okay, so this is the first library, and then the second one we want to use, search for, this will enable us write the logs to Elasticsearch. So it's called Winston-Elasticsearch. Yes, this first one right here, Winston-Elasticsearch. Okay, this is the library we want to use. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, once we create the logger, the Winston logger, we can then set our Elasticsearch transport. Okay, we're going to see how to use that. First, let us install this particular library. So install this, and we also need to install the Winston Elasticsearch. So npm install Winston and then Winston-Elastic. Okay, so install these two libraries. Now let's go ahead. Let's import Winston. Remember, we need to create a logger. Okay, with Winston, we need to create a logger. Okay, right here. And then for Winston Elastic, once we create the logger, we also need to create the Elastic transport. So the Elasticsearch transports, we need to create that from Winston Elastic. Okay, so I'll say import Winston, and then import the logger type from Winston. Okay, and then import. Now we want to import from Winston Elasticsearch. So let us import Elasticsearch transformer. Okay, Elasticsearch transport, log data, and then transformed data. Okay, so from Winston Elasticsearch, we are importing all of these properties: Elasticsearch transformer, Elasticsearch transport, log data, and transformed data. Okay, so transformed data is just if you probably want to transform the data before it is sent. Okay, you can go through the documentation. For the transport, we are going to see in the log, probably we are going to see information like this: timestamp, message, severity, and then different fields. Okay, so let us create our transport. So I'll say const, I'll call this or transformer first. So Elasticsearch transformer equal to, we pass log data. Okay, we pass log data of type log data, and then this is going to return transformed data. Okay, this is just from the documentation. You can go through this to see how it is done. Okay, and const transformed equal to Elasticsearch transformer. We pass this log data, and then we return. You can do this easily. Okay, so we can do this. We are calling this Elasticsearch transformer to transform whatever data that we are going to get, okay, from Winston, or the log data. We call the Elasticsearch transformer to transform the data. Now, the function that we are actually going to be calling inside our services. Now, in order for us to be able to use this and then send data to Elasticsearch, we will need to pass the Elasticsearch URL. Okay, so the endpoint for Elasticsearch, we need to pass it into this function. So I'll say export const. I'll call this Winston logger. Okay, now we need to pass the Elasticsearch URL. So Elasticsearch, we can call it Elasticsearch node. It's going to be of type string. Okay, so this is going to be the URL to our Elasticsearch node. Remember, right now we are running Elasticsearch locally. Okay, so I'll show you how we can get the URL for that. Then we need a name. Okay, so the name will just be the service. What service is the error coming from? Okay, so this will be string, and then level of type string. Okay, is it error, is it info? And then this will be of type logger, and then we return this. Okay, so if we go to Winston, you can scroll down. Let's see the different log levels. Yeah, you can see the different log levels. We have debug, we have info, notice, warning, error, create, alert, emerge. Okay, so we are going to specify the level. Now let's create options. Before we create the logger, remember that we need to create a logger. We need to call this, but before we call this, let us create the options that we are going to pass into that logger function. Okay, so I'll say const, I'll call this options. Okay, now since we are developing locally, we would like to see the error message in the console. Okay, so we need to see the messages that we are getting, our logs, we need to see them in the console. Okay, so we are going to set a console transport and Elasticsearch transport. So console transport is to see the messages in the console, so that as you're developing, you see what your logs are, and then Elasticsearch transport will send the data to Elasticsearch. Okay, so I will just call this console, and then the properties will be level, and then handle exceptions. I'll set it to true. JSON, I'll set this to false, and then colorize, I'll set this to true. Okay, so these properties are coming from here. You can just read the documentation. So this is an option. Then the second option will be, I'll call it Elasticsearch. Okay, and then I'll pass in the level, and then here we need to use the transformer. Okay, so transformer will be this method that we created right here. Then we need to call the client options. Okay, so the client options will allow us to set the node URL, set levels, and some other properties. In this client options, we pass the node. The node is going to be the Elasticsearch node URL. Log will be whatever our level. Then max retries, yeah, set it to 2, or retries. Okay, so the number of times to try if it's not able to connect to the Elasticsearch instance, okay, or the Elasticsearch nodes, and then request timeout. Yeah, maybe I think this should be 1 minute or so, or 10 minutes, 10,000 milliseconds, and then the sniff on start. I'll set this to false. Okay, let's see here. Okay, the property is not defined here. Okay, so these are what we are passing into our Elasticsearch option. We have the console option to display the logs on our console and Elastic options. Now let us create the actual logger. Okay, so right here, down here, I'll say const Elasticsearch transport of type, we use this Elasticsearch transport equal to new Elasticsearch transport. And then what do we need to do? We call options dot Elasticsearch. Okay, options dot Elasticsearch, and then the next is, let's create the logger. It's going to be of type logger, and now we call Winston dot create logger. Here we pass an object with different properties. Now we set exit on error, we set it to false. We don't want it to exit if there's an error. Now the default meta, we want to be able to see the name of the service where the error is coming from. So default meta service, and then we pass the name. Remember, this name is coming from here, whatever we pass right here. And then we set our transports. Now it's usually an array. You can add as much transports as you want. For us, the transport we want the first transport is the console transport. So new Winston dot transports dot console dot transport, yeah, the dot console or transports, not transport. So you can see we have console, we have file. If you want to write to file, if you want to send to a particular HTTP endpoint, okay, so we are interested in console, and then we pass options dot console. That is the first transport. Then the second transport will be our Elasticsearch transport. Okay, and then remember the method returns logger. We just do return logger. Okay, so this is just all we need to do in order for us to be able to send our logs to Elasticsearch. So we pass the options, we create the two options, the console option, so that as we are developing, we see our logs in the console, and then we have the Elasticsearch option. Okay, it will be sending the logs to Elasticsearch as long as you have this Elasticsearch node present. Okay, and then here we create our transports, Elasticsearch transport, we create our logger, and then we pass these options. And then in the transports list, we set the console transport and our Elasticsearch transport, and then we return logger. Okay, one last thing, let's export this. So go to index right here, export, and then this is going to be from logger. Okay, so we have the logger method.